Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Influence Weekly, where we dive into the biggest trends, insights, and stories shaping influencer marketing and the creator economy. I'm your host, Ceci Carloni, and I'm joined by our founder, Ahene. We're so excited to kick things off and explore how the space is evolving, one big story at a time. Welcome, Ni. How are you today?
Doing pretty good. How's it going, Ceci?
It's been a good day, so I'm really excited to dive in.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, Lee, this month we've got a great lineup. We're starting with a major move from the NFL, a messy AI misstep from a skincare brand, and a growing trend of employee generated content that's shaking up how brands tell the stories. So, first up, the NFL announced is hiring a vice president of influencer and creator marketing. This is a brand new role, and the job description makes it clear they're going all in. Whoever takes the job will be leading strategies across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and podcast, with a focus on building long-term creator relationships and driving fan engagement. I mean, we're talking about integrating creators into the league's core marketing approach. Only for a league as traditional as the NFL, with decades of legacy media deals, big cable contracts, and Sunday TV culture, this feels like a major shift. I want to know, what does a move like this tell you about how fast the ground is shifting between traditional media and digital?
Yeah, when I see a move like this, it really comes down to one thing, and it's really about capturing youth audiences. Your average young consumer, let's call it somebody under the age, two groups, somebody in the age of 30, so 18 to 30, and somebody under the age of 18. So your 18 to your 19 to 30-year-olds, they may not have cable. They may not have the Sunday ticket. They may not have the ability to watch their teams. And so the ability to download content or watch content with creator activations is critical to get that user to be able to understand what's happening with the NFL. The Sunday ticket package last year went from DirecTV to YouTube, and I think this is just the extension of that kind of plan. Now there's an opportunity for creators to create content around games that helps to amplify that brand, and the individuals that may not be able to watch the game live, even though they might be playing fantasy football, they can engage in content in other ways. And then when it comes to kind of the youth, people under the age of 18, really, if you're not on social, if you're not thinking about social first, you don't exist. Those individuals, they're not
Absolutely.
spending time watching, TV. They're not spending time in front of TVs flipping through the channels. They're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they're on Instagram. And the only way to be able to register on their radars is to find the people that they're already engaged with and then connecting with them. When I see the NFL make a move like this, it's acknowledging, like, for them to be able to have a future, they have to embrace this. They have to understand this thing from first principles. And I'm super excited to see the sort of campaigns that they roll out as a result.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, this really shows that the NFL gets where things are going. Fans are following creators, not networks. And to keep that connection strong, even a legacy league like the NFL has to think differently about how it shows up online.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. Nia, I actually recalled I interviewed Ian Trombetta, the NFL's SVP of social
Mhm,
influencer and content marketing last year. And
mhm.
he sort of hinted something like this happening. He said, you'll see more live creator activations from a wide variety of brands and partners, as well as from us. And he also made a very powerful statement, and it's quoted in this article. He said, some of our top performing posts ever in the history of the NFL involve creators and influencers. I mean, it's clear for me. I think it's, we're officially past the nice to have phase. Influencer marketing is now a must have. And this move really signals that even the most traditional brands and leagues are waking up to that.
Yeah, yeah, it's very clear that's the case. And so, for the last 2 years, those of us who follow the NFL know that the entire Travis Kelsey Taylor Swift relationship was a huge part of the
Yeah.
storyline, especially with the Chiefs being a great team, being back to the Super Bowl three times in a row. And as much as that, is not necessarily a turn on for traditional fans. It's necessary to bring new audiences to the TV screen. And so I'm glad the NFL kind of recognizes that. I'm glad to see that they're going to look for more opportunities to bring creators into the fold. And, yeah, this is the way you have to kind of think about your marketing. You have to think about those synergies. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind.
Absolutely, 100%. Up next, let's discuss the next story about a brand that got called out by a creator. A wellness creator, Arielle Lorry, recently called out a skincare brand for using an AI-generated video of her without her consent. The clip used her likeness and voice and was posted on the brand's TikTok as if it were a paid partnership. Arielle responded quickly, calling it wildly inappropriate, and made clear she had nothing to do with the campaign. The brand eventually issued a statement blaming an external agency, saying the content was created using AI tools for the US market and that they work with different vendors globally. But it didn't really sounded like an apology to me. I keep wondering if this was a calculated risk or just a major oversight from the brand side. What's your take on what went wrong here and what should brands be doing instead?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, I definitely was super, super surprised by this
Congrats.
story that, something like this could happen. But at the same time, it was only a matter of time. So, obviously there hasn't been an investigation, so that we don't have the specific details on exactly how it happened. But there's a lot of tools out there that you can easily take somebody's look and feel, their likeness, record a short video, and then you can have that avatar pretty much say anything that you want it to. And so what that means is the tools that brands are partnering with, brands need to do the work to ensure that they have the rights to be able to use those avatars digitally. Otherwise, there's a chance you
Yeah.
might run into an issue like this. And the fact that this is a well-known influencer as opposed to kind of just a random person shows how damaging this can potentially be. And so I'm looking forward to seeing, what kind of shakes out of it. But it's not surprising that this has happened. Deep fakes have been around for a while. I'm just surprised that this is the first time we've heard of it happening with someone who's an influencer as opposed to a celebrity. So yeah, I mean, I'm super curious to kind of see where things go. But in terms of brands, yeah, you have to vet your partners, right? You have to ensure that they have the processes in place to show you that they have the
Exactly.
ability to use those avatars the right way.
Yeah. And this is not only damaging the creators, it's also damaging the brand, both sides. So I agree with you, but this also makes me wonder if this could have been prevented with something as basic as a require disclosure around AI use, or maybe even better, a real process for getting creator approval before anything goes live.
It's tough, right? Because if you think about it, let's not think about AI. Let's think about kind of the previous generation. So there are big asset libraries that have stock photography, pictures of people, pictures of actors, pictures of people doing things. And as a brand, you can license that stock photography and say, okay, I'm going to use this content for my advertisement, for my collateral. And you assume as a brand that if you're working with an iStock Photo or a Corbis or any of these companies, they've gone and done the work necessary to get the rights. And that's the last thing you're thinking about is how do I ensure that these rights are in place the right way because you're working with an organization. I think because AI is so new and a lot of the companies in this space are so new and very startup, move fast and break
Yeah.
things, brands have to take a special care here because it's not like using stock photography, especially if you can get an avatar to endorse something. And so, while I don't blame the brand if what they're saying is true, I don't think there was any malicious intent here. I do think this is a warning shot to kind of anybody using these AI avatars that you have to vet the businesses that are providing these avatars for you because this is a brand new world and maybe somebody gave their likeness rights to their likeness to be a stock photographer, stock photo, but they didn't give it to necessarily become an avatar that speaks and recommends things. And so, again, we're in a brand new kind of situation, and I would be surprised if we didn't hear more stories like this across the next couple of quarters and
Yeah,
years.
yeah. And I agree with you, Nee. I don't blame the brand, but I would have expected a bit more from them. I mean, I don't think their statement, I feel like their statement felt like a dodge, no real ownership, just, we use lots of vendors globally, like that explains anything.
I definitely think the brand was probably just as surprised as the creator was that
Mm.
this situation happened. And if this was like a very large brand like a Sony or a Nintendo or a Nike, I would expect kind of a little bit more of like a formal apology and like we're gonna make it right. We're gonna actually create, create a true ambassadorship for you or something like that. But this is a very small D2C company. These businesses, they have 10, maybe 20 employees tops. These are mom and pop businesses at the end of the day. And so to expect a brand like that, that's, producing a product and trying to launch their goods to kind of do more than what they actually did when they were probably just as surprised as the influencer, I'm not surprised that was a response that they gave.
Yeah. All right, Nee, before we wrap, let's end on a trend that's been gaining momentum and is starting to actually show real marketing impact, the rise of employee influencers, sometimes called EGC or employee generated content. More and more companies are leaning into their employees to create social content that feels authentic, insider, and highly shareable. Product tips, behind the scenes moments, or day in the life clips. It's a way to connect with younger audiences without the gloss of traditional influencer campaigns. There was a report from Disseminate, the Employee Advocacy Benchmark Report 2025, based on a survey conducted from May to August 2020. 254 respondents from companies like IBM, Expedia, and P&G, all with over 1,000 employees. So before we dive deeper into this trend, let me give you some stats on the report. 72% of organizations now use technology platforms to manage their employee advocacy efforts, indicating a widespread adoption of these formalized EGC approaches. 61% say EGC is extremely important or very important to their overall strategy, and 73% say leadership involvement is key to driving participation. What's really interesting is that employee posts are often outperforming the brand content and even influencer content, especially when the faces are familiar and trusted inside the company. So I want to know, what's your take? Do you see this as a smart internal marketing, or are we just stretching the definition of influencer a little too far?
I mean, I don't necessarily look at this as influencer marketing as much as I do content marketing, but I do think it's a great strategy. And so the reason why I think it's a great strategy is because, let's take Nike, for instance. If I want to go to a Nike store, I'm not going to be talking to the CEO. I'm not going to be talking to Tiger Woods. I'm not going to be talking to Michael Jordan. I'm going to be talking to an employee. And so for me to have the warm and fuzzies around the employee experience and the employee talking about the latest shoe, whether it's a running shoe or a basketball shoe, it's going to give me the confidence as a consumer that when I go to the store, I'm going to have people who are knowledgeable and passionate about the subjects that are on the product in the store. And so, yeah, I love employee advocacy. I think it's a great content and marketing strategy. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more B2C companies, especially companies with physical locations, embrace this trend.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I do actually love that this trend gives employees more of a voice, but I also do wonder, are we putting extra pressure on people who might not want to be a content creator? Is this a skill set we're not expecting from everyone, regardless the role?
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope that organizations that embrace this trend are doing so on a voluntary basis, or asking for volunteers for those that are good and actually get their content selected and promoted. Hopefully there's some sort of bonus associated with it. I don't think this is something that you can just expect every single employee to start creating
To be
content
on
for
board
you.
with.
Because one, not everybody's going to be passionate about it, and two, not everybody's going to be good at it. You can be passionate and not good about it, not good with it. And so, ideally there's some sort of process where yeah, if you're, an hourly employee, you're working in a store, this is something you can do during your downtime. You talk about product, and if you're good at it, maybe that's a pathway for you to move from being a frontline employee into the marketing team. And so that's what I'm excited to see brands and organizations start to embrace that. And ideally, they're doing so in a way which also gives the employees an opportunity to level up in the organization. It's not a requirement, it's something that you can do, and there's an incentive to do so as well.
Okay. Before we wrap, I do have a question. With all this talk about EGC, are we going to start seeing you create more behind the scenes content for Influence Weekly? Should I be expecting TikToks from your desk soon?
Anything is possible. I mean, we've been very active with our social platforms recently, and yeah, I mean, I think there's a good chance that if we think that that's what our audience wants to hear and see, it's a good chance it's something that we'll embrace.
To wait and see. Okay, that wraps up this episode of Influence Weekly. Thanks for tuning in and exploring the latest stories with us. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next in influencer marketing and the creator economy. Until next time, I'm Ceci. Talk soon.